also the ADA compliant issue.
Exactly.
And yes, we could do that. You know, I would be a little more cautious going in, but we could, if you go into those little classrooms, I mean, they're
12 inches.
Right.
little guys.
Right. No, I understand, having been there. But I'm just looking for a stopgap until we see what we actually get on this application to the state funding for the PK5 school, because I think if that happens, if we get selected for that, I think it takes a lot of things off the table and allows us to move down the field with that building becoming something other than what it is now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Vice Chair?
Dr. Kilo, you were saying in the early part of your statement that the infrastructure, the plumbing, and all the things in that building were failing now.
Are deteriorating, meaning that
Deteriorating.
Yeah,
That's the next word before failing.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So they're in bad shape,
Yes, sir.
They require constant maintenance.
require constant
A
maintenance.
lot of snaking, cleaning out the pipes, keeping them clear.
And the brief look from the architect, they're going to have to be replaced.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, walk down this road with me for a second. Everything works out perfect. The state says to us in January, here's $9 million for you to create a PK5 school. You get that money in January of 2011. You start renovating this school, this school, and that's going to take you 2 years to renovate. Probably.
Yeah, I'm hoping faster, but yes, 2 years is a good timeline. Yes, sir.
So we're at January 2013. Theoretically, maybe a little faster, maybe not.
That's a good, safe guess.
Good safe guess.
Yes.
Realistically, it doesn't do us any good until September 2013 when a new school year starts, and you move all those kids over there. Okay?
Right.
So at the best, it's going to be 2013 before we move the kids out of this school, Bowling Green Elementary, into a new school, or a remodeled school, renovated, whatever you want to call it. So in 3 years, we realistically are saying, or you are saying, that constant maintenance, a lot of snaking, will make do, and we won't have a problem for 3 years if we don't do anything in the bathrooms?
I'm not saying that. I'm just going to say.
Yeah, nobody wants to say that. That's really.
I'm not going to. But what I'm going to say is this: on the best estimate, we could be in the school if everything, and we roll very rapidly. You have to understand the architect's already on to this. They're ready to move into the drawing phase, bid phase. 2 summers in a school year, we can get a whole lot done.
Right.
That's best guess. What you estimated is probably reality and realistic, and if you're trying to set a true timeline, that's probably a little clearer and more correct. I want to best faith guess that we can do it in probably 18 months.
Okay.
The other piece is, no, we would like to get into, because that building we are hoping will have still use in the future. And truthfully, I think that instead of us waiting until the students get out, what we do, it's smart for us to do it right. You know, when I got the question posed to me, I think my response was, let us give you and I agree with what Mr. Akers, I'd like to know what direction you want to go. I've talked to the board members. I think that they would be, get the drawings, get it clear, get a bid, then we come back to you and say, here's what it's really going to cost to do this, because I don't want to give you a number and it be wrong.
Yeah.
I think that there would be, people would say, yes, this would be helpful. It would be great to allow the kids to use it in the meantime, and that's what I'm hearing you say, and I'll say it. Yeah, it'd be nice to have something for those children to use. Can they use what they're using? Yeah. Is there going to be issues? Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, my question is, what's our contingency plan if we realistically are not going to get into something new for 2.5 years? Can what we have survive, and what's it going to cost if it breaks? Which, deteriorating is the word before failing. So you ever seen a bathroom fail?
Yes,
Yeah, it is really ugly.
it is.
So, I mean, what's our plan? Now, whether we decide to say no, if the school board says no, they don't think it's a good investment, the Board of Supervisors says we're not gonna fund 276 instead of 84 we thought it was, that's another story, but, I mean, we have to consider all of the options or all the possible scenarios. You know, your snake might not work next time. Your snake might go right through the pipe. And then what do? I mean, how could we fix that if that happened? And I don't think any of us knows. So do we have a contingency plan in that sense in case something happens in the next 2 years? Do
Yes,
you want to go with Mr. Seeley's, let's just change the size of the fixtures? I mean, what's really your plan and what would you like to do?
I would say that in the position that we're in, if you all want to move ahead and get the cost, it's fair to give these children a new bathroom that we know is going to work and is appropriate. I cannot see into the crystal ball that there won't be a failure, that there isn't something that's going to happen, and you know that we're not going to put ourselves in a bad position. You know, if we were going to try to, and I'd have to talk to the board, I mean, the purpose in building the new bathrooms is because you're going to have to go in and replace all the piping underneath, so you're going to be cutting through all the floor and everything else. That's not cost effective. That's why building a new on the outside would be good, and then you vacate the old ones, okay? If I was going to make a recommendation to the board, and they were asking me, that would probably be, if we had the funds available, that would be the recommendation. If they said the funds weren't available, I would say we will do our best to keep it up and keep it running, keep it clean, and keep it functional for the kids.
Okay. So based on what Mr. Akers said about whether this board is going to decide to fund 276 or whatever, would it be a fair compromise? And I'm kind of asking you and us to say, go ahead and get numbers so we understand realistically how much the new bathrooms would cost.
Right. And to get new numbers, I just want to make sure we understand that we would have to pay the architect to put this together in the bid document. Then what we would do to get you fair numbers, my recommendation would be that we bid it out. And at that point, if you bid it out, then you'll have clear numbers, and then you still have the right to accept or reject those bids. And that gives you the clearest number that you can have, because if I sit here and tell you today it's 330 and come back and it's 400,000, I'm going to be running up that aisle as you all are chasing me, and I don't want that. Okay, and I don't blame you. I'd be frustrated too. But to get the real number, that's what you need to do. I would recommend that we do.
Okay. I'm not sure it's prudent for us to go that full step, because we're going to spend a lot of money and we may say, oh wow, that's too much money, and we spent money. Isn't it possible that you could get the architect to estimate the conceivable construction cost? Because by definition, that's what the architect has to do anyhow.
I can get in more detailed, you know, like I said, today he sent us a figure of $330,000. Okay? And what that included was remove the existing toilets in the classroom, provide a concrete cap for the sanitary line connection, and use that as existing storage space. She wasn't converting, it was just closing them down. And the estimated work there was $9,000. Construct a new bathroom to serve 9 classrooms, and the cafeteria was $130,000. We could actually, and I circled this, remove, replacing an existing sinks and cabinetry. A lot of that is not working. He had $45,000, so we could possibly subtract that from it. Another $130,000 to serve the other side of the building, because you have all the students coming in from the trailers. And then to replace the existing toilets in the bathrooms of the administration, cafeteria, nurses, and custodial rooms, he had $16,000. Now, I don't believe he included his drawing, you know, what he would charge for putting all that documentation together.
Probably like 4% of his estimate.
Probably, yes, sir.
something like that. Okay. I don't know, I think I'd like to hear what the school board, as a board, said when you presented to them, and then maybe we come back.
Mr. Akers?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Dr. Killo, when Mr. Thomas was asking about the alternative and what options and what your other plans were, I guess I'm assuming that the school board had other plans, because if you recall, the $6.7 million that was borrowed 4 years ago, I think $684,000 was included for renovating bathrooms. Some of it at Bowling Green Elementary, and I think some of it at Madison. But $684,000 was included in there for that amount to do those projects. And so I would assume that there were alternative plans and other options developed at that time, because the school board decided not to follow through with those improvements at Bowling Green Elementary. Is that true? And I know you weren't here back then.
I can't, all I can say is when I arrived here, the Madison and Bowling Green project were going. I was told that they were expected to come in about $2 million higher than they did. They came in low, and they, for whatever reason, those two schools were chosen to put the brunt of the money and the work into, and you know, I just followed through with that. And then when, you know, the money that was left over with your help and with the school board's help, we've replaced, and that didn't even include any HVAC replacing. And if you remember, all the BARD units were near failure at that point. When I came here, they were failing, George, a lot. We were dealing with failures all the time.
High maintenance.
And all those were placed at $1.2
million.
$1.2 million. That's where some of it, and then we've used the rest to do the safety and so forth. I don't think that, you know, we've been repairing things all along. You know, we've used some of the money that we had to repair issues with the sewer connection at Bowling Green Elementary and the annex, and 45,000, or was it 50,000 or 45? 45,000, and then the connection fee at $56,000. We also had used some of the money, about $12,000, to repair a sewer breakage in the cafeteria at Madison. And we've had one other, there was one other one that we've used. We used some money to repair.
Yeah, and I certainly haven't said that you didn't spend the money that you were given, but I guess my point is the fact that the priorities were established by the school board and administration, I suppose, and the priority of doing something with the bathrooms at Bowling Green Elementary did not come to the top. It did not rise to the top.
It must not have.
Yeah. So I'm just.
That's really kind of my point I'm saying, because you will recall at the joint meeting, and I think it was Mrs. Redding who said it is, you know, when I asked her, we didn't necessarily publicize the fact that we were going to move from Bowling Green Elementary to a K-5 at Bowling Green Primary. And, you know, I don't have to know everything. You know, if that's your decision, you make it, and we move on. But we have to actually have a communication among, you know, you and the citizens, us and the citizens. So I think if they decide again, now you'll be here. We can't say you weren't here before when that decision was made. You'll be here. He'll be here. We'll all be in place, and you'll basically reaffirm the school board's position of, let's not do it, let's do it, and then we can act accordingly.
Right, and I would agree with that, Mr. Thomas. I think in the past, it's been in the past year with the CIP committee that the final decision was made because of the situation we walked into, that we were going to abandon and would like to do the K-5 school because of the great success at Lewis and Clark, the great success at Madison. It's made this, you know, it's either renovate that or do the new, and you know, we've had those discussions, and it's a positive. Yeah. It's a place we're at right now.
And you know better than anybody how to do that. So, you know, the school board comes back and says, you know, Monday when they meet, they say, okay, we are again reaffirming the fact that we're not going to put any funding into Bowling Green Elementary because this is our plan. And then we can all tell people that ask us, this is the plan, and like you said, we all see the big picture.
But the issue still remains, like you said, and so that means it's collectively as two boards, and I'm okay with that, if that's what we're going to do. And we'll go back to your scenario that we're going to address whatever comes our way, and then hopefully we'll get the money, and hopefully that we won't have any failures in 2 years.
And to use the words you used, I don't have the crystal ball. See, I do listen.
I know.
So I don't have a crystal ball, but you have to tell me what you think you want to do.
All right.
And then when you tell me what you think you want to do, you're saying you're moving from this school. So when a parent, teacher, whatever calls me and says, come to Bowling Green Elementary and see how bad this bathroom is. And when I get there and say, well, we gave them money 3 years ago to fix it, why is it not fixed? And then, like I said, I don't need to know everything, but I was not made aware of the fact that you had made that decision. Doesn't really bother me, but the people at the school were not aware of that decision. So if I live in my house and I say my house is, I need new carpet, I need to paint the wall, but I'm going to be moving in 2 or 3 years, I might feel a little bit better about having the raggedy carpet or the unpainted walls. Might. That's something we'd have to work out ourselves. But my position is, if the school board, says that's what they want to do, I will be happy to support them in whatever decision they make.
And I appreciate that you're putting it in the position to give us an option here, because we didn't know that option may have existed. So,
But we still haven't gotten past the funding, so none of this
right,
could be reality based on what we get next month.
Right.
But I mean, that's my position. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Certainly won't drag this out any longer, but go back, just let us know what you guys think is best for the school system, and then we'll have to work on the money end. So you guys don't mind coming back and letting us know which direction the school board would like for us to go.
Good enough.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. It's been whispered in my ear that maybe we should go past item number 3. We have a lot of things on the agenda yet. So, yeah, do need to do that. The proposed Washington Rochambeau Victory Park project. Mr. Ashcraft, is Mr. Wilson going to make this presentation?
Yes, sir. Wilson is here.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is an update on the previous board questions and directives regarding the Victory Park project. There are some new developments and, of course, the new information incorporated into this report. The new development is the town of Bowling Green at its December 2nd, 2010 council meeting has requested through formal resolution that Caroline County proceed with the Victory Park construction, including the Board of Supervisors' instructions into this report. Costs and funding estimates of the draft plan indicate that the original project expense was $231,600. The contingency the board requested of 10% is $23,160, so the adjusted project expense for the project is $254,760. The 80% grant is $203,808, and therefore our match, the adjusted higher number, would be $50,952. There's already been expended at least $15,000, so the match will be only $35,952 remaining to be spent. And the town has resolved on their December 2nd meeting to contribute $5,000 to the match for the project. That leaves $30,952, the county being responsible for as a match for the project. This is roughly a $320,000 savings from the original project cost, and that's saving is derived from a number of items that, because they have been simplified in the designs, such as the parking lot utilizing existing cleared space as opposed to starting with a green field, saves a great deal of costs, as well as the site being partially prepared for paving. And of course, there are a lot of excellent features in the park, additional lighting on Innis Street for public safety. Again, you'll have more green space. You'll have a site that integrates the town's Main Street and the courthouse area together, and provide an area for citizens and visitors to have quiet time in a very pretty area that enhances the town's appearance and so forth. And of course, it does honor George Washington and the victory of the Revolution. So in itself, a very significant event, and one reason why the county was awarded this grant. So those are the major points that the board has asked for the cost considerations. Mr. Thomas did ask specifically, did we have to spend all the money that was appropriate to us? The answer is no, sir, we don't. So we can save money and be confident about it.
Okay, Mr. Wilson, we appreciate the update. And of course, this is one that's not new to us. It's been around a while. We certainly have reduced the, in working with the town and the committee have reduced the cost of this project, which will bring us nicer walking paths that are more conducive to the walking traffic around the courthouse, and additional parking spaces that are the paved parking spaces that are much needed. Of course, Stephen Manster's here, town manager. We appreciate the resolution and your support in that, and very grateful for that. But at this time, you know, how would the board like to dispose of this matter? Questions, comments? Mr. Popowitz, Mr. Akers?
Yeah, we have $114,000 roughly was what's left over from what was borrowed to do this project.
Your recollection is correct, sir. It's about $114,000 was a match for this grant. Only $15,000 has been spent.
All right. And Town of Bowling Green has pledged $5,000 toward this, so we're talking about a $30,000 additional amount of money for the county for the park. My first thoughts were that it's probably something that didn't need to take place at this town. The Town of Bowling Green has certainly come forward. They have given us a letter of a resolution supporting it and basically asking for it, and so I have no problem in working with the Town of Bowling Green and trying to make this happen here in the town for them.
Okay. Mr. Seeley?
Like I said, this has been around a long time. We've talked about it. I guess there's nothing left to say. I appreciate the town, and I've talked with town council members and the mayor and the town manager many times, and I think it's come to a good resolution.
Okay. Mr. Vice Chairman? Questions?
I don't have any questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, how would board members like to dispose of this item?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve moving forward with the Victory Park improvements or the project with the county expending no more than $30,952 additional money.
Second.
Okay, a motion made, proper second, to move forward with the project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. All right, motion carries. And if it's okay with board members, we will dispense of item 3 with the time that we have. Also, appointments for item number 4. Board members have any individual, not that I think I need to appoint guys, but if you all would like to volunteer for one of these sections, that would be fine.
How often does the Capital Improvements Program Committee meet?
Anywhere from 4 to 6 times a year. They've
Is that pretty much the same with all of these committees, or?
That would be a good guess on all the gifted education, probably only 4 times a year. Special ed, 6, extracurricular, maybe only 4, the others, yes, 6.
I will take an appointment to that committee.
Which one?
A,
A, CIP, Mr. Akers, okay, thank you.
I wouldn't mind doing the career and technical education.
Okay. Gifted and educate, gifted education. Mr. Popowich. Extracurricular. Mr. Thomas.
You can do either one, I'll take whichever the last one or whatever.
Okay,
Let me do extracurricular and do special.
that'd be good. Mr. Thomas, extracurricular, and I'll do special education. Okay. And next we have the appointment for Rappahannock Emergency Medical Services for the RIMS Council.
Oh, I didn't know who that was.
And do understand that we have a recommendation on that for Mr. Bernard Sprouse for the appointment, who was recommended by Chief Lehman.
In that case, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we appoint Mr. Bernard Sprouse.
Second?
Motion made and probably second to appoint Mr. Sprouse to the RIMS Council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same.
Mr. Chairman, I know it's not on the agenda, but I'd like to go ahead and tonight make my appointment to the redistricting committee. I've talked to them, and just so that it'll be known that I've made that appointment for the Madison district. I'd like to appoint Charles Shoebridge and Scott Roberts. Scott Roberts. Charles Shoebridge.
And Scott who?
Roberts.
I'll second his nomination.
Okay, for redistricting committee for Madison District, Charles Shoebridge and Scott Roberts.
Yeah, and we all going to appoint 2 people from each district. Mr. Fincham,
That was
is
one.
he over there?
I believe that's how.
2 or 3?
Previously, it was
2?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the plan we talked
Okay.
about before.
Okay, and also, I had, well, let's go ahead and deal with the motion.
Okay.
Motion made and proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Also, I'd like to get the names from the last time, because if I have some people who have experience already, I want to make sure I know exactly who they are.
Mr. Chairman, I also have my appointments ready.
Okay,
Yep, same.
Mr. Popowich.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Bill Wick and Mr. Jim Heimball.
I'll second this motion.
Second. Oh, boy,
I have Mr. Bill Wick and Mr. Heinbach.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's his first name?
Jim.
Jim. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, the motion carries. All right, consent agenda items. Members have anything they need to pull?
And we added F.
And we added F. Motion's in order.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
Second?
Motion made and proper second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. Motion carries.
Fran,
Yes, sir.
agenda item E was the fair.
I saw that. I saw it. Thank you.
Okay, that gets us to that portion. You gentlemen want a break, or you want to keep going? All right, we'll take a 10-minute break. We'll now reconvene the Carolina County Board of Supervisors meeting, and I'd like to welcome those who have come in for the public hearings, and would like to move forward into public comment period this time. And I will, Ms. Hall, can you read those rules for us, please?
Public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing the public to speak to the board on any matter which is not scheduled for public hearing at this meeting. To help conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, please refrain from clapping or other public demonstrations of support or opposition. The public comment period shall not serve as a forum for debate with the board or a question and answer period with the board. Remarks shall be addressed only to the board and not to staff, the audience, or the media. All public comments shall be made in a respectful manner. Cursing and antagonistic behavior are prohibited and shall be grounds for removal from the meeting. Comments should focus on matters or issues before the board or county and not individual board members or staff. Comments which single out an individual board member or staff may be ruled out of order by the chair. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name, address, and voting district, if applicable. There shall be a time limit for each individual speaker of 3 minutes. No speaker shall address the board more than once during the public comment period at any single board meeting. The county administrator will time the speakers and notify them when their time has expired.
Thank you, Mrs. Hall. Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on any matter other than items 6, 7, and 8 on the agenda? Please come forward and state your name and your voting district. And if there's anyone else, if you would please come down and get in line, we'd appreciate that as well.
Good evening. My name is Dolores Brown. I represent the Mackinac District. I come before the board tonight because I had read an article in the paper that there was a problem with the Fred and that it might be discontinued in January. Well, I come from the board to ask you, as you discuss that matter, that there are a lot of people that ride the bus at a certain time. I know the riding had dropped a little bit, and I had talked to some of the people, and they said due to the weather was why they had stopped riding it for a little while. But we need to keep this bus running in Caroline County because a lot of people depend on it to go to Carmel Church, to go to work. Also, I depend on it a lot to go to the doctor's office in Bowling Green, to the Rite Aid, and also go to the doctors in Fredericksburg, and I ride that bus a lot. We ask that due to the budget part, that if you cannot come up with the funding, then maybe you should consider looking at the route that goes to Dawn and Port Royal, because I think that's the route that no one's riding. So I have a few people that came with me tonight. I had a lot of people to call me asking me about it, and I told them I would come and try to speak on this matter and to ask y'all to consider that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Brown. Are there other citizens who'd like to address the board tonight? Any other citizens who'd like to address the board? Any other citizens who'd like to address the board? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. And we'll be discussing the Fred bus issue in just a little while. All right, next we have 2 public hearings. We'll conduct one public hearing for RZ02 2010, and included in that will be the special exception 02 2010, and then after that we will take 2 separate votes if we get to that point. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your 2 public hearings tonight on zoning matters are related to the Caroline County Agricultural Fair. First public hearing is RZ02-2010 for Ann H. Tate, trustee, owner, and the Caroline County Agricultural Fair applicant, and special exception permit number 02-2010 on the same property. The subject applications are to rezone approximately 40 acres of land from rural preservation to planned recreation and entertainment district, and for a special exception permit specifically for the use of that property as a fairgrounds in accordance with Article 17, Section 13, and Article 11, Division 6, Section 3, Paragraph 4, which is the specific reference for fairgrounds. The subject property is identified as tax parcel 68-A-41, and it contains approximately 40 out of 106 acres of land. The property is located at 8332 County Fair Lane, approximately 1/2 mile west of Jefferson Davis Highway in the Mattaponi voting district. The 2030 comprehensive plan identifies this area as being located outside of the Carmel Church community planning area and designated for rural preservation with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres of land. The Caroline County Agricultural Fair is requesting a rezoning to the planned recreation and entertainment district for purposes of holding the county fair and other fair type events on the previously referenced property near the Virginia Sports Complex. The agricultural fair has been held at this location for several years based upon a festival permit previously issued by the Board of Supervisors. In addition to the fair, Halloween events and other events have been held at the site pursuant to the festival permit. A rezoning to the RE district would allow these various events to continue throughout the year without the need for additional permitting from the Board of Supervisors. The applicant is also requesting a special exception permit in accordance with Article 11, Division 6, Section 3, Paragraph 4, which as previously stated is the specific standard for fairgrounds in the Recreation and Entertainment District. Current regulations require a 100-acre minimum parcel size for the planned Recreation and Entertainment District. However, Section 3.3 of the Plan Development Regulations allows the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors to modify requirements related to the Plan Development Regulations, subject to certain findings by the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. Based upon the intensity of the proposed uses and the scope of the use of that facility, staff does not believe that it's appropriate to require the 100-acre minimum specified in the ordinance. The Planning Commission agreed and recommended a modification to allow a reduction in the minimum lot size from 100 acres down to the 40 acres requested in accordance with Article 11, Section 3.3, subparagraphs A through D of the ordinance. And the Planning Commission, in its recommendation to the board, recommended that the board find or make the 4 findings referenced in sections A through D and grant the modification. Both the proffers and the recommended conditions are included in the staff report. Planning Commission recommended approval of the rezoning and special exception permit request by a vote of 3-0. And with that, I'll address any questions that the board may have.
Mr. Vice Chairman, you have a question?
No other question? Mr. Fincham, in the Planning Commission vote on page 10 of what we have in our handout,
Yes, sir.
you have 5 conditions, which I'm sure you've discussed with the applicants and they've agreed to.
Yes, sir.
The last one was not numbered, but it says staff recommends a condition number 6, which states a sewage disposal system which meets the requirements of the Virginia Department of Health be installed.
Yes, sir.
Have you discussed that with the applicant?
That was not discussed with the applicant. That is something that would normally be required during the site plan review. However, given the specificity of those recommendations concerning sewage disposal, we felt that it was appropriate to specifically cite that standard.
Okay, so they could have a disposal system including pump and haul that would satisfy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I guess when the applicant comes before us, they'll tell us how they address that? I hope.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Other questions? Okay, the applicant wish to speak? So we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Yeah.
Any questions?
You guys, you can go ahead before we open.
I know you have the recommendations before you of the Planning Commission, and we will follow what the recommendations are. The pump and haul, you know, currently we have the porta potty. I don't know what the official name for that is. I guess that's pump and haul, and we'll do what is required to be done with regulations as you're requiring us.
We'll install, and when we talk to the health department people or whatever, about installing the tanks.
Oh, the tanks, yeah, for the
need. We're still in the process of deciding where they need to be. You know, we've moved the carnival the last 2 years. They were at the front. This past year, they're at the end. And the storage tanks would be used for them because they're usually there at least a week. So it's for their,
So that part, yeah,
for their,
it's for them, that's right.
their disposal of their waste. And so once we kind of get the permanent site set up, we'll install, I think it's like a 2,000 gallon tanks.
Okay.
Used to hold all that. So
So you really,
You go ahead.
so you're really saying you're using porta johns now, porta potties now, which basically is pump and haul.
Yeah.
And given the Department of Health's approval, you'll install a septic system.
Right.
Which
We're
will
looking
eliminate
to-
that pump and haul.
Once we get the plan, because now that we've got permanent buildings, we can decide now where the best place to install, if we install restrooms, and can get that in process. But we will, as far as the gray water, have a tank, holding tank for that during, for this.
And I just want to make sure you were aware of this condition.
Yes.
Which I
Yes,
didn't think you would be. Okay,
Yes.
we're good.
Okay. Thank you,
Anything else?
Mr. Tate and Mr. Whitaker. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. We'll now hold a public hearing for RZ 02-2010 and special exception 02-2010 for trustee owner, Caroline County Agriculture Fair, associate applicant, Ann H. Tate. Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on this public hearing? Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on this public hearing? Are there any citizens who would like to address the board on this public hearing? We'll now declare the public hearing closed.
Mr. Chairman.
We do have, as Mr. Fincham had said, we need to have two separate votes, one on the rezoning and one on special exception. Mr. Fincham, question?
Mr. Chairman, when you vote on the rezoning application, if you vote to approve that request, I would ask that you reference the 4 findings of the Planning Commission to allow the modification of the 100-acre requirement down to 40 acres. In their motion, there was conditions A through D related to that modification. If you would include a reference to those standards in your motion, that would be appropriate.
All right, motions,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve RZ 02-2010 for the Caroline County Agricultural Fair and Association, and also reference the findings that Mr. Fincham referred to regarding the minimum size now being 40 acres.
Second.
a motion made and properly second for the approval of RZ 02-2010 with the
A through D.
okay, with the references in the Planning Commission report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same. The motion carries. Next,
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd make a motion to approve special exception 02-2010, and there are no special conditions on this one, I believe.
Second.
is that correct, Mr. Fincham?
Right.
All right,
No additional conditions other than those that are in the staff report would be the amendment to my motion.
all right, motion made by Vice Chairman, second by Mr. Seeley.
And I'll second his amendment as well.
Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same. And that motion carries. Okay, next we have item 8, the proposed amendment to the Code of Caroline County to increase water and sewer availability rates to extend the time of certain existing resident connections to Caroline County water at reduced availability rate, and to clarify the definition of term schedule as it relates to sewer and water rates. Mr. Shebel, how are you, sir?
Doing good, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The The board at its December 16th meeting approved staff to authorize the public hearing and has done so in accordance to the code. In this proposal, it's to increase the availability, the residential rate of water from